Coming up on this program, POS. That stands for protein, oil, and starch, and some of the things you can do with them. Also, the UHT, or ultra-high temperature process. It's made a big difference in the milk and juice industry. As well, food crops in the north. With a little know-how, you can grow quite a garden. And cryopreservation, preserving plant tissue in liquid nitrogen. These stories coming up on A Fine Science with Holly Preston.
POS, protein, oil, and starch. At the plant in Saskatoon, the POS organization specializes in developing techniques to process food. Work is carried out, much of it on a confidential basis, for small businesses with manufacturing ideas and large businesses testing new processes. We were able to look at some examples.
Well, the process that we looked at on the extruder is really a tool that we use to evaluate the functional abilities of protein. You take any protein product that you may wish to study, and you can put it through an extruder, and it'll give you some idea with heat and pressure what that protein may do in terms of producing, say, something like a snack food. If you looked at extrusion, you have your equipment, which has inside it a screw like auger, and then around that you have what they call heads. They also have a flight to them. And you develop a pressure inside that. The outside of those heads are heated, and you put your product and add moisture to it. And your starting ingredient for your corn kernels was simply commercial cornmeal. You add moisture to that, and under pressure, that will then cook inside there. Your starch essentially melts, and when it comes out of the hole of the die, you have it coming out from severe pressure to atmospheric pressure, and you have that moisture flashing off, causing the expansion of those corn kernels. And then you end up turning the cutter on. That cutter is adjustable in speed, so you come out with very short sections to very long sections, and with the adjustments taking place, you then put those cut up corn kernels with a high moisture content of about 18%. They will then go through the dryer and come out as your finished product at about 7 or 8%, to which you then add spices, and you add in your powdered cheese, and you come up with your commercial product. It's also ideally suited to the manufacture of pet foods, and those types of extruders will produce your normal kibbled dog food that you buy on the market. It'll produce various types of meat analogs, little cubes of beef. It'll also produce your various modifications of snack food. Your breakfast cereals can come off that as well. Well, the other experiment that we did was the production through microwave vacuum drying. It's a specialized type of a research that one can do, and it applies to materials that have a high value because of the cost of the capital equipment and the cost of inputs of energy. You really want to look at materials that are hard to dry, that may require a low temperature, or you may wish to keep the color. In that example, we were drying orange juice concentrate. The logistics of microwave vacuum drying, you may have a lot of capabilities in North America for microwave drying, simply adding energy, electrical energy that's converted into microwave energy. That causes the moisture inside your material to become excited and flash off. Now, by adding vacuum to it, that assists the movement of that moisture out of your product. Now, in our case, we use that to advantage to be able to give liquids that go into that unit, which have a high viscosity or have a high sugar content. They will foam because of the air that's trapped in that liquid wants to expand during the vacuum that's applied to it. That then goes through the microwave energy chamber and assists the movement of the moisture out of your material, cools it down towards the latter part of the belt, and then a little breaker system at the end breaks your styrofoam-like material up and you can then pulverize that and grind it to produce the kind of material you want. We like to think of this facility as being able to go from the very beginning to an end product, in that we can back up and buy raw material of a specialized variety from locally from a farmer, or bring materials in and take it through our primary processing area, which gives us the capability of cleaning the seed, modifying it, milling it, breaking it down to give us the ingredients of proteins, oils, or starches, which we can take further on through our process and evaluate, do experimental work on, and take it to the point of where either the ingredient is suitable to our client, or we come close to making a consumer-like product for that client. Any one of the 40 or 50 pieces of equipment that we have here in the pilot plant are of course available through their commercial manufacturer, but they will only be there to demonstrate that one piece. If you have a complex process that involves 10 or 15 different operations, you can't facilitate that at that manufacturer's place. But we like to think that under this roof we can put enough of these pieces together to give a complete program, evaluate its efficiency, and pick out the bottlenecks and help the client develop his process and develop perhaps a new consumer product, or simply have a more efficient operation.
ID, module, belt, phaser, and helmet.
Introducing the ultimate laser game on planet Earth, Photon. The laser battle is on. Finally, you'll know if he's hit electronically. The one, the only Photon. Disrupted. Battle set shown here, and Warrior set each sold separately. Batteries not included. Photon. It's a grand toy.
Since we opened our doors over 20 years ago, Audio Warehouse has offered the best price and selection on brand name products available. In addition to audio and video products, we have the music for your system. We carry one of the largest selections of cassette tapes, LPs, compact discs, at the lowest price anywhere. Audio Warehouse, great prices, tremendous selection, and superb service every day of the year. So come on down!
To the Brown Derby. Honey, kids, we're going to the Brown Derby.
This is the best part. At the Brown Derby Family Restaurant, there are many reasons for you to enjoy yourself. The elegant atmosphere, excellent food, tempting menu, nightly entertainment, Sunday brunch, and our reasonable prices. But the most popular reason is we'll make you feel like someone special.
And no autographs, please.
The Brown Derby Family Restaurant, 3926 Gordon Road, 2 blocks east of the Louvain.
Bunsmaster. Bunsmaster. Baked fresh every day, open 7 days a week. Variety, self-service, low prices, make meals special. Bunsmaster, 623 Park Street, 3936 Gordon Road, 176 University Park Drive, and now also in the Sherwood Village Mall. Check it out, but beware, a visit to Bunsmaster Bakery tends to become habit-forming.
Dairy Producers Cooperative Limited in Regina is a very modern operation. One of its more interesting products is UHT, or ultra-high temperature milk. It's essentially what we call fresh milk, but it can be stored at room temperature for up to 90 days.
The initial step in the manufacture of UHT milk, of course, is receiving the milk at the plant. The driver, once he has located the truck in the building, he will climb on top of the tanker, pull a sample of milk, and that sample will be taken to the lab for quite an in-depth analysis. If the milk is of the quality we desire, the milk at that point will be unloaded. After unloading, the initial step that we do in this plant is we give the milk a heat treatment. The heat treatment, the purpose of that is to kill initial bacteria that are already in the milk as it is received from the farm. And from that point, the sterilization process later on takes place in a much better fashion. After the heat treatment, we standardize the butterfat of the milk from the normal 3.25 to the 2%, which is the only butterfat level in UHT milk at the present time. After the heat treatment, cooling takes place, and the milk is stored overnight in one of our silos, and we have a capacity of 330,000 liters of storage in this plant. It's stored in that silo overnight, awaiting to be sterilized the next day. Now, the connotation of the word sterilized in many people's minds conjures up chemicals and those sorts of things, but not really. In the manufacture of UHT milk, the word sterilized means all bacteria are killed by heat and heat alone. There is no other adulteration of any kind to the milk whatsoever other than a very rapid heat treatment to take place. This heat treatment does two things. It kills bacteria, and it also inactivates many enzymes that are normally active in milk. The only additive that we are allowed by law and required to add to the UHT milk is the vitamin A and the vitamin D. That must be metered in very specified amounts so that the consumer in Canada will receive their fair share of vitamin A and vitamin D. The sterilizing step takes place very, very quickly, and if in fact you think of canned milk, you get a very, very strong cook flavor in canned milk. In the UHT system that we have in Regina here, the process takes place so quickly that the level of cook flavor is very, very reduced. This cook flavor is a natural phenomena and cannot be bypassed. When you apply heat to milk, it is a fact of life. After sterilizing, the milk is then transferred to a sterile tank. That tank is a specially designed tank which can hold sterile milk. And the reason it can hold sterile milk in a sterile fashion is because the tank itself has been steam sterilized. The steam sterilizing of the tank takes place prior to the introduction of the milk. It reaches a temperature of 140 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. The milk is then put into that tank. Once the tank has been cooled, it's put into that tank and awaits packaging. The packaging step is probably the most critical step in the entire UHT process. It's the aspect that makes UHT possible in a flexible carton as opposed to a can. The packaging takes place by running the actual paper web through a peroxide bath, a hydrogen peroxide bath. What happens there is when the peroxide comes in contact with the packaging material, all bacteria are killed immediately on that packaging material. All traces of peroxide are then removed prior to the introduction of the milk into the package. The milk is introduced in such a way that there is no air or a headspace in that carton. It is filled below the level of the liquid. So you always have a completely filled carton. The temperature of packaging of that milk is rather unique in that normally with pasteurized milk we package at 4 degrees centigrade, but in this case it is at 20 degrees centigrade, which is normal room temperature. With that normal room temperature, we can then maintain that milk at normal room temperature for at least a period of 90 days. That is the length of the code we are presently putting on UHT milk that we package in Regina. The final step in the packaging of UHT milk is the quality control. That is a very, very critical area in the entire process, and a great deal of time and care and expense goes into the quality control end. What we do there is we set aside samples of each run, and a great number of samples that is, and we incubate those samples. We subject them to an elevated temperature of approximately 35 degrees centigrade for a period of 5 days. After that 5 days, if there was even one single solitary bacteria in that carton, the carton would in all likelihood explode or in fact be sour. So with the great number of samples that we do take, we have statistically proven that the milk is of sufficient quality that it can be released to the consumer. And that is the paramount concern we have in quality control, to ensure that the consumer receives the utmost product. The unique part about this process, it lends itself to various other products, and juices, drinks, and the like are an offshoot of that as well. The entire process is virtually identical, except, of course, in juices and drinks, we simply buy concentrates, add specially treated water, and then sterilize it, hold it in the tank, and package it in virtually the identical fashion we do it to milk.
Dairy Queen, the original you never forget, introduces another top-of-the-chart taste. New DQ beef nuggets. Tender, juicy nuggets of beef wrapped in a golden, crisp batter. Perfect for dipping in smoky barbecue, creamy horseradish, tangy steak sauce, or hot mustard. Pick up new DQ beef nuggets, only at Dairy Queen. The original you never forget.
We treat you right.
Warren Miller, the master of skiing on film, takes you beyond the edge. This is where the action heats up and the skiing gets serious. Beyond the Edge is a hot new ski film from Warren Miller. Fast, funny, action-packed. Warren Miller's taken it to the limit this time, taking it beyond the edge. Downhill excitement at its best.
Tickets available at the ski shop or at the door.
Need to furnish a room, fill a corner, cover a wall, or decorate a space? Right now at Wicker Warehouse, you'll find some incredible savings. Save nearly 50% on Papa San chairs, now only $199.95. On this swivel rocker, you'll save over 20%. This Bury Peacock chair, now only $59.95. Wicker Warehouse, conveniently located at 1350 Rose. Wicker Warehouse, your one-stop decor center.
The Lube Tube, 1920 Francis Street, home of the 5-minute oil change. Drive in, no appointment necessary. And in 5 minutes or less, your vehicle will have a complete oil change with new oil and filter, grease job, and visual inspection of all fluid levels. If you don't have your oil changed regularly, you're saving a little time that could cost you a lot in the long run. There's no monkey business at the Lube Tube, just fast, efficient service. The Lube Tube, 1920 Francis Street, just north of Victoria.
There are many things you can do to enjoy the unspoiled wilds of northern Saskatchewan, but growing your own vegetable garden probably isn't one of them. A research project by the University of Saskatchewan at Potato Lake, just south of La Ronge, is proving you can change that if you know how to cope with the conditions.
The conditions are cooler day temperatures and night temperatures, extreme soil variability, low or very acid soils, and cool soil temperature and a shorter growing season. Well, in the small range you find a lot of different types of soils. They vary from a peat soil to a heavy clay to sandy soil, all basically acidic. We're growing the brassicas, which are cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, and they grow fairly well in cool temperature area and with cool soils. And we're also experimenting with growing hot season crops such as tomatoes and cucumbers, which in that case we use plastic mulches and row tunneling to give the plants more heat to grow. These plants here were grown with no treatment at all. That is, no soil, mulch, or plastic tunneling. They were just planted in bare ground, and you can see that they're awfully stunted compared to these plants here, which have the plastic mulch on them. And the plastic mulch has the primary effect of warming the soil, thereby increasing the rate of ion uptake in the roots and increasing the rate of respiration and water uptake. And this allows the plant to grow much quicker, reach maturity earlier. It also has the secondary effect of holding in the moisture in the soil and keeping down the weeds. Every crop has a certain heat requirement that it needs to reach maturity. Now, by using the plastic row covering, it provides the plants with this heat requirement earlier in the season. Once you take the plastic tunneling off, they've already accumulated a certain amount of that heat so they can reach maturity earlier. It also allows the plants to set up more blooms and thereby increasing the yields.
Success can also be achieved by using a greenhouse. The soil in general is very poor in fertility, and some type of fertilizer is necessary, especially in the sandy areas.
What we see in this plant is potash and nitrogen deficiency. The nitrogen deficiency is evident in the yellow striping on the leaves, and the potash or potassium deficiency is seen in the brown scorching at the edges of the leaves. There is no fertilizer added to this soil. The plant mainly is sustaining itself on the native fertility of the soil, what little bit is there. Okay, the plants you see here are nice and healthy. This plot was fertilized at a rate of 250 pounds an acre with 1620 fertilizer, that is 16% nitrogen, 20% phosphorus. There's also an overall application of potash. And as you can see here, this plant shows no deficiency symptoms, such as scorching, which would be the case of a potassium deficiency, or yellow striping, which would be a nitrogen deficiency. These plants are much taller and vigorous as compared to the plants where no fertilizer was added. It's not the weather that is so much limiting in the north, it's more of the interest to grow that's the limiting factor, because a large number of crops can grow here. It just has to be realized.
Almost all fruit crops grown in Canada originally came from Europe and Asia. Many of the areas they came from are now not easily accessible, often for political reasons. To improve these crops in Canada in the future, genetic resources have to be preserved. Even native fruits, such as the Saskatoon berry, are endangered by land clearing and livestock. Professor Cecil Stushnoff of the University of Saskatchewan heads a team experimenting with a procedure called cryopreservation, or preservation by freezing. If buds from trees can be preserved, the exact tree can be reproduced in the future.
Our interest in cryopreservation is to learn how to manipulate plant tissue so that it will survive not only this temperature range, but down to -196, considerably colder than we're talking about under natural circumstances. When we store plant tissue in any form, whether it be dry seeds, spores, pollen, or the dried dormant buds that we'll be referring to, we're talking about cryopreservation of plant tissue at -196.
Every tree in a commercial orchard is produced by grafting to a rootstock so that each tree is identical.
When we use the dormant bud technique to cryopreserve apple gene resources, we must go through several steps to achieve a bud that will be alive when it is taken from liquid nitrogen. The first of these is to take the bud from a dormant tree. Trees that are outdoors from November to February are dormant and they're cold hardy. This means that they will withstand temperatures down to -40 in this part of the world under these circumstances. That's the first prerequisite. Secondly, then, the bud is taken from the tree and dried to 20 to 30% water. In the field, the water content is 50 to 55%, and it must be dropped to about 20 to 30% in order for this process to work. The third step, then, is to freeze the bud at a specific temperature program. We begin the freezing process at 2 degrees per hour to -16, and then at 10 degrees per hour to -30. The buds are held at -30 overnight, and from that point are plunged into liquid nitrogen at -196. They can then be stored in liquid nitrogen indefinitely, and when it comes time to take them out, they are removed from liquid nitrogen, they are thawed at 2 degrees for 24 hours, and rehydrated back to 60%, 55 to 60% moisture. At this point in time, they can then be taken and budded to a rootstock, grafted to a rootstock, in other words, so that the bud can be with the rootstock can be placed in a greenhouse under growing conditions. The bud will develop and grow into a new shoot, and the cycle is completed. We're back to our whole tree.
Another technique in cryopreservation starts with growing shoots from buds under in vitro or test tube conditions.
These shoots then must be manipulated so that they will increase in cold hardiness, as we do with the dormant buds, but in this case this is under controlled conditions in the lab. And to do that we use frost, low temperature, and a short photo period to, if you wish, trick the shoots into an outdoor growing environment, a simulated outdoor growing environment, whereby they will harden and increase in resistance to cold. After this, the meristem, which is a 1/2 millimeter section of the growing point of the shoot, is isolated and treated in a cryopreservative solution. The meristem with the cryoprotectant is frozen, in this case at a much more rapid rate, from 1/10 to 1 degree centigrade per minute to -40, and then plunged from -40 into liquid nitrogen. Following the storage in liquid nitrogen, the meristems are retrieved, placed back on an agar media, grown under controlled conditions, and we are now trying to recover whole plants following this stage. At this point in time, plantlets treated in this manner have survived from 3 weeks to a month, but in no case yet have we been able to regrow a whole tree using this system, so there's still more research that needs to be done along these lines.
And that's our program. I'm Holly Preston. Thank you for watching A Fine Science.